Roger Stone, thank you for joining us.
Great to be here, Alex.
Let's get into it.
Well, first of all, I have to comment on the Ted Cruz item. You know, why do people take an instantaneous dislike to Ted Cruz? Well, they're just saving time. In this case, I have no criticism for Ted Cruz. I myself am a libertarian and a libertine. I'm not running for public office. The real sin here, it seems to me, if there is one, is that on the one hand, Ted tells us he's a devout evangelical Christian, and on the other hand, he appears to be checking out porn on the internet. Now, there's nothing wrong with watching porn on the internet. This is a free country. We have the right to do that if you choose to. You also have the right not to do it if you don't choose to. But it's the hypocrisy that makes this a story, not the alleged actions by Mr. Cruz. That said, I want to break down exactly what you talked about here, Alex, because to a great extent, the mainstream media only carried half the story. We broke amazing news here yesterday at InfoWars, but they don't seem to understand the cause and effect. Keith Schiller, who is one of the finest men I have ever known, decorated former New York police detective, longtime bodyguard for Donald Trump, the guy who always has the president's back. You can see him in almost every picture hovering near the president when he's on the rally tour or in public. Keith Schiller, a man who's put his own life on the line to protect Donald Trump. It was Schiller who grabbed the guy, you may recall, who tried to vault onto the stage in Ohio and get at the president during the campaign. Schiller has been purged by McMaster. Why? Because he has a direct pipeline and access to the president. He carries out the president's orders. Keith Schiller is a man with no agenda other than the agenda of Donald Trump. No agenda other than the success of the Trump presidency. Now, separately, we at InfoWars have three solid individual sources who all tell us that in phone conversations with the president that he was at some point slurring his words. Perhaps if this were one report, you would chalk that up to fatigue. He works very, very hard for the American people. But when three people repeat it, and we know that he doesn't drink at all, not even wine, we know he doesn't do drugs, he is not personally in favor of marijuana, even though he is a supporter of states' rights on the question, and that he has extraordinarily work ethic in terms of the hours. This behavior is inconsistent with everything we know about him. Now, when you connect these two facts, the possibility that he is being drugged or medicated by his handlers is more than entirely possible. It's not crazy, it's not a conspiracy theory, it's not outrageous, it's entirely likely based on the evidence. What's sad about the mainstream media is they say, oh, Alex Jones says the president's being drugged, without telling people the backstory. The backstory being General Kelly's insane desire to get complete and total isolation of the president so that no one he talks to, no one he sees is outside the control of General Kelly and his handlers.
Well, it's eerie. It's like something out of a horror movie where now his best friend, basically, his confidant of 30 years, the guy that he absolutely trusts, the guy that brings him his fast foods, everything, checks everything, is now just gone, and that Trump didn't know that he'd done this. How did they get rid of him?
Well, I'm told that Schiller was refused the opportunity to speak to the president about his dismissal, and that Kelly told the president that if it was either Schiller or him. There was a very important New York Times piece roughly a week ago. I'm quoted in the piece, but that's not what's important. That made the case, and Glenn Thrush, the reporter I spoke to, made this case to me, that Trump needs Kelly more than Kelly needs Trump. I completely disagree with that. Donald Trump needs a chief of staff who understands the Trump revolution, who understands how Trump was elected, understands the constituency that he appeals to, and that he now has to keep in place as a governing constituency, a governing consensus. That's what the president needs. Now, he also needs somebody who's organized, who understands government and how it works.
Sure. Not to interrupt here, Roger, but let's expand on this briefly. I mean, think of the attitude when you've got Kelly and his adjuncts on TV saying, we control his information. He goes with the last thing he's given. We've got him totally isolated. Don't worry, we've got the nuclear football in control. One of the generals, never leaves town with the others. We're babysitting him. They're just totally like a bunch of old senile men buying into CNN, MSNBC, and all the rest of the hype. They don't get the country's broken with them. We're tired of it. We don't like seeing the president encircled. I don't want access to the president. I haven't even sit there and pushed to try to get him back on the show. I want cut taxes. I want sovereignty. I want to not import unvetted hordes of radical Muslims. I don't want to sexualize children. I want all the basic things Trump wants. I want him to have the advisory board investigating vaccine dangers. I want the Trump agenda I heard about. We've already gotten some of it, and it's been great. But more and more we see them cutting him off, slowing him down, and showing disdain, virtue signaling in the media. And if they're so command and control, and they're the generals, and they're the guys that'll save America, and they're the guys that know what to do, but none of us are even humans compared to them. Okay, then, stop shooting your mouths off, undermining the president and his agenda so you get your butt kicked, or your butt kissed in New York and D.C. and all the rest of it. They are socially weak and are bowing down to the pressure and running down the president everywhere they can, a.k.a. look at the Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson. These people are running from the president, even as we get the best median income numbers in U.S. history in today, even as we see the economy turning on, despite everything they're doing trying to stop it. It's disgusting. They're a bunch of social climbing people, just like Hollywood scum. They're all acting the same, and I'm sick of it. America elected Trump. Flyover country elected Trump. InfoWars elected Trump. We don't want to be in your filthy D.C. We don't want to be in your filthy L.A. We don't want to be in your filthy little red carpets and private jets and all you ugly dead peacocks. We're America. We're the red blood. We work the jobs. We pay the taxes. And we're the country. Not Hollywood, not the globalists, not the communist Chinese, not special interests, and not some clique of generals either.
Well, Alex, I think you're exactly right. This whole attitude is born of arrogance and entitlement, if you will, is born out of the fact that they have run the country for the last 30 years. The transition of power from the Bushes to the Clintons is seamless because they are the same people. Their appointees are the same people. Their globalist, anti-American mindset is
and that's
identical.
why we have the Clinton holdovers, the Obama holdovers, and all of them, all lockstep blocking Trump right now. And that's why you've got these generals paying an all lip service and going along with putting in more Soros people, because they've been taking orders from these folks for 30 years. It's their bosses. Their bosses are George Soros and Hillary Clinton, and they're still taking orders.
Why else would the Trump Justice Department be fighting the release of Hillary's emails? Why else would the Trump State Department be fighting the Hungarian government to stop them from trying to throw George Soros out of the country? We have an Obama government with a few Trump appointees at the top. That's what currently exists in Washington. This is the greatest single danger to the president and to the Trump agenda. And the arrogance of those around the president that we know better. Again, I refer to the story we broke yesterday of General McMaster. And Mike Cernovich reported this some months ago. He was teetering on holding on. The stories about his out-of-control drinking were ubiquitous in Washington and well known in the White House. His career was saved when Priebus was thrown out and his new protector, General Kelly, was ensconced. This strengthened McMaster's hand. How does Mr. McMaster, General McMaster, justify the hiring of Fiona Hill at the NSC to handle Russia? Fiona Hill worked for George Soros. Fiona Hill hates Donald Trump, hates the Trump doctrine, hates everything we are trying to do. Why does this woman have a White House pass?
And now we go back a month ago, they said within 2 months Trump will be neutralized. I mean, is this the neutralization where just everyone's gone, the family can't see him, no one can see him? And then how did they get Trump maneuvered into this position where his best friend is gone? That sounds very concerning. And I mean, how else could they get this stubborn person to do that unless they are drugging him?
Look at it this way, Alex. The president is the king. He's a good king, but right now he's a captive of the bad guys. They're keeping him isolated in the tower because they know he has good works in mind, and they want to undo what he wants for the people.
And they're telling him, let's get into the blackmail. We didn't get into that yesterday. Let's get into the J. Edgar Hoover stuff.
Yeah, look, I think that there are those who would bear false witness against the president, claim that he had inappropriate relationships or other matters of blackmail. I happen to know that there's nothing to these stories, but they're going to do anything necessary to try to control the president. When you are president of the United States, you live in a fishbowl. You're not going to have a girlfriend, or perhaps in the case of previous presidents, a boyfriend, because there's no way to conceal it. The world would know. There's no way to be discreet and be president of the United States. But I don't trust the deep staters to make crap up about our president, because they've done it before, because they lie, because lying is what they do. That's what the
sure. Well, they put the PP dossier out. I mean, they put out all this fake stuff. They had all the fake lawsuits about him kidnapping little girls. It turned out it was fake names because they're trying to cover up the Jerry Epstein stuff that the Clintons have on them.
That's exactly right. And by the way, most of those people have come forward and recanted. One case, there's evidence that the Clintons were paying them to say these false things. Donald Trump has never dallied with underage girls. It's a lie. It's a fraud. But I think they'll use anything in their
Absolutely.
bag.
Well, then let's talk about the next shoe to drop. And then we've got other guests coming up. But stay with us. 5 more minutes with Roger Stone, second hour. Please spread the word about the broadcast, folks. On local stations, Infowars.com/show. You're the power of the broadcast. You're the Infowar.
Crashing through the lies and disinformation. It's Alex Jones coming to you live from the front lines of the Infowar.
This is breaking on newswars.com and Infowars.com right now. Representative Franks. Awans seek immunity for significant disturbing testimony against Wasserman Schultz, confirming the reports we were putting out last week from our sources and others. The Daily Caller also was reporting it, that they had planted the laptop for police to find, obviously, and had written letters to the police and Justice Department. So they were looking for immunity, looking for safety, looking for a way to give them the info, but then hide out and contact them and not be grabbed right away, knowing the power they had over the Justice Department. And now it's confirmed, Infowars.com. What's the next shoe to drop? Because we just see the insane arrogance and corruption, even Dianne Feinstein saying Catholics aren't fit to serve in federal courts. I mean, the left has gone bonkers crazy. Roger?
Well, in this particular case, Alex, I think it's important to note that Deborah Wasserman Schultz, after she was informed by the Capitol Police that the Awan brothers were under formal investigation for the stealing of both money and data, changed their classification within the House of Representatives computer system from consultant to employee to allow their unfettered access to the U.S. House of Representatives computer system to continue. That makes her an accessory in their crimes. And one can only assume that the U.S. attorney in either Florida or in Washington, D.C. would wake up and understand that this is a real scandal. Russian collusion, that's nonsense, or as we call it, the Russian collusion delusion. But two Pakistanis having unfettered access to the House computer, neither one of whom seems to have extensive real IT experience. Was this a Pakistani intelligence operation? Was this an Islamic terrorist group of some kind or an affiliate? Where is the Washington Post? Where is the New York Times? Where is CNN? Where is CBS? No, who's covering this? Infowars.com, The Daily Caller, alternative conservative media bringing you the real news, not the fake news.
And, of course, those are all the websites banned by General Kelly from the president. I mean, people are saying, oh, the president's not a prisoner. We just control what magazines and articles he can read. That's exactly what you do to high-level security prisoners in maximum security. I mean, this is insane. The president is by increment being turned into a Chinese emperor in his forbidden city. And then these sycophants that are all around him wanting personal power through it are acting like those of us concerned are the ones that want into the White House and want into the president when they're the ones that have done it. I'm in Texas. I'm not in D.C. I don't need to go there to get the power. I'm transferring the power back to the states. Our listeners are doing that, Roger.
Look, I think our obligation here, Alex, is to save the president, to help him understand exactly what's going on around him, and to preserve his agenda. We act out of loyalty to the president. We act out of affection for the president. We act out of total support for his agenda to transform this country, make it great again. The history will show, in the end, that the seminal event in terms of the deep state's moves on the Trump administration is the fall of General Flynn. When General Flynn is dismissed on the recommendation of Jared Kushner, it opens the door for McMaster, Soros, and the bad guys.
That's right. That was the drawbridge being lowered down. That was the string of the Christmas sweater that unraveled the whole deal. Wow, Roger Stone, you'll be on the War Room coming up today at 3 o'clock after this transmission. Thank you so much. We'll be right back with Jihad Watch. They've been banned on PayPal.